I'm Nico, and this is Let's Play The Sims 4 Create a World. So I know that I still have to build Mama Wilkins' farmhouse. I know that, and I'm going to get to it, I promise. It's a big lot, and I'm a little bit nervous. I honestly don't think I've ever built anything that big, so I will do it, I promise. But for now, since I just did 2 builds, the trailer and the convenience store, I'm going to do a Create a Sim instead. So I'm adding some brand new people to this lonely little world, and this is going to be Randall Bruce. Right, so Randall Bruce's appearance is going to be based off of Aaron Paul, who played Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad. Now he doesn't look exactly like him. I usually start as close as I can get and then make a couple adjustments. I don't think I make too many adjustments. I think I was like, oh, that looks like Aaron Paul, that's perfect. But I do like to look at a picture when I'm in Create a Sim. It makes sure that everybody doesn't look exactly the same, because if I just went in and made Sims that I were like, yeah, that looks good, then every single Sim would look exactly the same. Not that I don't think all my Sims look good, because, well, that sounds super vain, but yeah, I'm super vain, and I think all my Sims look good. But I just think that if I base it off of real people who all look pretty different, then my Sims will all look pretty different also, and it'll be a little more realistic. So yeah, Aaron Paul. Right, so this is Randall Bruce, and I'll tell you a little bit about his story. Randall grew up in a place that is not any of the worlds we were given, but it's kind of like Oasis Springs, very hot, very dry. You know, the land isn't really good for farming, so they built a factory out there. And he lived in a small town where every working adult worked in this factory. And his mom and dad did work there. His mom was a general factory worker, and his dad managed one of the warehouses. And in this small town, everybody knew each other, and everybody was kind of similar. You know, all the kids were hardworking factory kids who just expected to get a job there and full benefits, and it was a pretty good deal, you know, for growing up in a small town, and you didn't really have to plan for your future much, you know. You got a really good job that paid well and kept you going. You could have a family out there, just stay there forever. And most of the kids were pretty much along those lines. Randall was always a little different, though. See, Randall, he was kind of a loner growing up. He didn't really have a whole bunch of friends. He was super into music. He loved music, and he thought that the celebrity scene was really intriguing, and he fell in love with his guitar that he bought by himself in high school, after working a little bit at the factory, which he hated, by the way. He hated the factory. He could not stand it. And from that point, really, he always kind of knew that he wanted to leave home. But it was that point when he finally got enough money to buy his guitar and he quit, that he was like, I'm getting out of here as soon as possible, right? So he does leave. As soon as he graduates high school, he pretty much runs away. Like, he tells his parents that he's going to go, and they're like, yeah, okay, Randall, whatever, right? So they're pretty strict, and they kept a pretty tight leash on him, so after he graduated, he packed up his guitar, which was the only thing he really loved in the world, and he just started walking and hitchhiking. I mean, that's pretty much how Randall is. He just goes for what he loves, you know. His music was his passion, his guitar and writing songs and listening to music. Music is his life. So he didn't feel tied to home at all. So he just picked up and left. And actually he ended up in San Myshuno. Now, he doesn't exactly like to work. So he didn't get a job. He was like, I'm going to make money off my music. So he started playing in the streets. He moved into an apartment that he put a small down payment on, and then quickly found out that he could not keep up with rent. And so that brings us to around this time, actually, and during this time, while he was in the city still, he met another runaway named Mary Su, and I'm going to tell you more about her story when we come up to her here in a little bit. And they fell for each other pretty hard, moved in together almost immediately. I mean, it was definitely a better better option for Mary, who was practically living on the streets at the time. So they moved in together, still couldn't afford rent, and eventually got evicted and had to move into Willow Creek, into a little trailer park with Randall's friend, Manny, and I'm actually going to do a mini-sode on Manny after this episode. It's not going to take very long. I think the video is like 5 or 6 minutes, but yeah, so they do end up moving into Manny's trailer. So yeah, and now I'm on Mary Su. So that was a little bit about Randall. I might tell you more about him a little later, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just leave it at that. But this is Mary Su. Both of Mary's parents were politicians. Again, not in any town from the games, but they were both politicians, and she very, very strict on her. She had to get good grades all the time. She couldn't really go out with friends. She didn't really have any friends. They were extremely hard on her. I mean, at least Randall had a little bit of freedom in the town, even though his parents were like strict on what he should do with his future. They didn't really have a whole lot of power over him in the end. Mary's parents, however, they were pretty much big brother to her. Like, they were watching her all the time. They knew what she was doing all the time. It was really hard to have any freedom at all. And pretty much the same deal as Randall. As soon as she graduated high school, Mary was gone. But she just snuck out one night. She didn't even pack a bag or anything. She took some money and just headed on out. So, before I keep getting into her story, I will let you know that Mary Su's look is based a little bit off of Kirsten Stewart. And I'm sure you know who Kirsten Stewart is, but she played Bella in the Twilight series. And then a mix between Kirsten Stewart and a singer from Taiwan named Annie Yi. Go look her up. She's gorgeous. So I did want to give her a little bit of Asian influence, so I mixed them together a little bit. Although I think she does turn out looking a little more Annie Yi than she does Kirsten Stewart. Although I was going with this long face. I kind of feel like, well, I didn't feel like it. I was looking at a picture that Kirsten Stewart had like this long face, but then it looked a little too like masculine, and I think that Kirsten Stewart's face to me does look a little masculine, but not as masculine as this was turning out. As you can see, it kind of looks like a boy. So I did put a lot more of Annie Yi in there, who is again just gorgeous. I listened to some of her music when I was making Mary Su, but I'd never heard of her before. I was just looking for some references to make her, and yeah, so I don't want to waste all the time talking about her influences. I'm just going to keep going with her story. So yeah, her parents were politicians, very strict. She ran away at 17 and ran into the city, but couldn't afford anything, had a hard time holding down any kind of jobs, even though she did try a lot harder than Randall. She had a lot of musical influence growing up. She played the violin, she played the piano, and Randall taught her to play the guitar. So she did like music, not nearly as much as Randall, but she did love Randall. Randall kind of became her passion in the city. So she wanted to be with him. He took care of her. He told her everything was going to be okay. She thought he was really optimistic, which was a big change from her. She's a little more realistic, and it was kind of hard for her, and she was basically living on the streets, and Randall took her in, and I think a lot of that gave to why she fell for him so fast, because she was, lonely. She didn't have anyone in the city. She didn't know anyone, and Randall kind of took her under his wing and was like, hey, I'm new too, but he was doing a little bit better than her, which is surprising, and because she's a lot more responsible than he is. But so I think that's part of the reason why she fell for him so fast. And he taught her to play the guitar, and she already had some musical background, so it didn't take very long. And I think they bonded over music. She really came to like music almost as much as he did, but not as much. I mean, music is Randall's life. That's his one true love. So they form together into a little band. In The Sims 4, you can't form a band like you could in The Sims 3, but I I'm just imagining. I'm just making up that that's what they're doing. They're in like a little 2-person group, right? And they write music together and they play music all day. And she was trying to get jobs, but as the music became more and more important to Randall, he was like, look, if you're gonna be in this group with me, you gotta stay home and we gotta write music and we gotta go out and perform, and that's what we gotta do. So he had her quit her jobs that she was working, and he was like, don't worry, we'll pay rent because we're gonna make it big and then we'll get a better apartment. And, Mary had never had that kind of optimism in her life. It had always been kind of, I don't know, she's always been very realistic, and her parents were very realistic, and they were like, if you don't get good grades, nothing's going to go well for you in life. And then, she didn't, even though they wanted her to get all these awesome grades, she was never very good at school, so she just assumed nothing was going to be good for her in life, just like they said, and she just constantly felt like a disappointment, and it just bore down on her really hard, and it left this like lasting scar that she still carries around with her. Very insecure, even though she developed this bright fashion style while with Randall. I think that and her fashion, putting together clothes and going out and showing off these different looks, I think has really helped her out a lot. And I think that, even though it's hard being with Randall, I think he's been good for her in a way, and I think that they're a little bit bad for each other, but they're also kind of good for each other in a way. Like, it really helped her develop a sense of meaning in her life, I think. So, however, lately, Mary Su has been having a hard time with him because now that they're living in the trailer park in Willow Creek after they got evicted, I think that she's starting to realize that their life isn't going to be made off the music. She just doesn't feel like that's realistic, So she gets a job, and Randall starts to get mad at her, and Randall's kind of into partying and all that kind of stuff, and I think that it's really starting to weigh on her. I think that they're not as close as they used to be, and she's been working at an actual job. She's working as a dishwasher at a restaurant and earning some money to try to help Manny, who basically took them in, and doesn't make them pay for anything. She feels guilty all the time, and she wants to help them out, so she got a job. She hasn't been working with the music as much, and Randall, I think, is getting pretty annoyed with her because he thought that, she loved it as much as he did, and this was going to be their life, and they were going to get famous, and that's just not the way their life is going, and I think it's really putting a strain on their relationship, definitely. They're really having a hard time now, and Mary feels like, she's a lot of who she is now is because of Randall, and it's not that she doesn't love him, she thinks their lives are going in different directions, and she doesn't want to leave because he's meant so much to her, and he's helped her so much, and she just thinks that he's a beautiful person. Like, he's just so passionate and wonderful and optimistic, and she's loved the life that they've had. She likes partying, and she likes the music, and she likes going out and having a social life, and it's just hard for her to get away from that, even though she can see in her heart that they're going in different directions for sure. It's just her head is just telling her it's not going to work in the end, but it's hard. It's hard because she really does love him, and I think that he really does love her too, but the problem is that he just doesn't love her as much as he loves the music. That is his life, That is what he is all about, and he's always going to choose music over a relationship, unfortunately. So I think Mary Su is starting to see that, and that's kind of their story, that's where they're out at in life right now. They're living in a trailer park in Willow Creek because they couldn't afford the city, and Randall keeps going to the city and performing, and Mary Su's trying to perform with him as much as she can, but now she has to work and earn money, and they're just it's slowly becoming not good for the both of them, I think, and that neither of them really want to let go. I mean, Randall would always choose music over anyone in the world, but I think, he's developed a lot of feelings for her, and they really care about each other a lot. It's kind of hard for them, so that is their story, Mary Sue and Randall, and I will be making Manny into a little mini-sode that I will probably upload. I'm trying to keep uploads every Saturday and Wednesday, but I think I'll probably just upload Manny whenever I get the chance, because it's like, again, it's gonna be like 5 minutes, so yeah, her traits. So again, I was trying to find some good stuff to go with her. She's very responsible, she's very realistic. I think she did develop this music lover trait that she'll probably never get rid of now that she was experienced it. I think she really appreciates music almost as much as Randall does now. He's really ingrained that in her. Vegetarian, I thought that was a good option for her. She looks like a vegetarian. I don't know what that means. I don't know what vegetarians as a group of people should look like, but I just thought she felt like a vegetarian to me. Her third trait was kind of hard. I wanted to make her outgoing, but she wasn't really outgoing, She never really was. Like, Randall is the one that made her outgoing. So I thought ambitious was better. I think Randall is not ambitious, and she is, and that's a big strain on the relationship. So yeah, picking their voice, even though you can't hear it, she has a very high-pitched voice. She sounds really cute. And I wish you could adjust height. That's a really annoying thing. Like, I imagined her smaller than Randall, but because of her hair, she comes out looking taller. Although I just think she's gorgeous. So yeah, gonna get a good picture of them here, and that's Randall, Bruce, and Mary Sue. That's their story for you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.